to know we have answers, hopefully, to some of your questions, but also just updates, nothing of great magnitude, but things that I think people are very curious about. And I wanted Jean just to give maybe a few
I'm going
comments.
I'm going to talk about the project. Yes.
Okay, well, we don't have time for a whole project, but I
I'm
want
gonna-
you to tell them how many mini reefs
Yeah.
you've now got.
I
going.
thought I'd give an update. If that's
That's
like,
where we are right now.
all right.
Updates.
All right,
Yeah.
then here's
Would
my
you
update.
like the-
All right. You know, we're
She has an
basically,
update on her mini reefs.
Yeah.
So here's your microphone.
okay. Thank you. Thank
Then
you,
we'll
guys.
go on from there. We got about 4
Whatever.
minutes.
Okay, guys, as usual. Okay, so basically, this is the team for the water, and what we're doing is we're working on increasing the real estate and diversity in our waterways, all for Siesta Key, all over Siesta Key. The island waters are our focus, and what I've got here in this picture is the island showing you where the mini reefs are, and then also you can see it's divided up by the canal. We're focusing our science on the 4 sections of the canal, not just the mini reefs, but the science. What I want to point out to you is we had a great project we're doing is 50-50, not quite over. It's going to end probably at the end of this month. And we have added at least, people purchased 125 additional reefs. And I believe I have orders for another 30 that just came in this week. So I'm really excited about that. We can go up to 215. I'd love to push that number up. So what we've got is we've gone up from 45 to almost 60% in the areas that I've circled there. And that's the area of Commonwealth and the Siesta Isles. What a great job Siesta Isles did. They're going to more than double the amount of reuse that are in that. Why that's important? That's the main leg in the Grand Canal, and that improves the water that will go all through the canal. So it's really important we continue to focus on that. All right, and then what I've got next talked about the fact that we're going to start the science program. So we've got 3 people we've trained, and we've got 1 new one signed up. So we're starting through that process. Monthly testing is going to be in 2 zones. It's going to be Siesta Isles and in Palm Island. We'll do the other zones, Commonwealth, and later on, and another one, but we need to grow our people. The other thing we're doing is we're going to meet with the state of Florida Environmental Protection in June. We're going to get some additional training and certification. They're going to certify our process. So our data will go into the Florida State Water Atlas. It's really great to be able to do this, and then we'll get more focus on how we can do better. This is the measurements. I'm not going to go through that, but these are the measurements we're taking, including like the basically the environment and the measurements, and we do videos. The other thing we're doing is we're gauging right now with schools. We've got Sarasota Bay Estuary Grant we've proposed. We'll know in the middle of May if we've gotten it. And we're working on vertical oyster gardens. And Kent's got a new design in his bag he's going to show me later on. But this is what we're doing, putting these in free. And it'll be the students that will be putting them in. And then the students will be doing the science on them. So we want to bring them into the water so they start learning about how to be stewards going forward. And that's it, guys. That's all I had.
Thank you, Jean. What's really great about this is bringing students
Vertical
into
oyster.
understanding what civic activity can be about. It can be fun and they can learn from it, and maybe school, but there's nothing better than teaching kids how they can have fun doing some things and still be doing a lot for their community. So thank you, Jean.
You're welcome.
It's a great project. And Neil, you want to make a question?
That last part of the project, that's just the food reward, right? It's not sort of eating.
Well, Kent gets to go over to the oyster, Scott, and he gets the shells. So he eats oysters at happy hour just to get you shells.
These oysters are gone
Yeah.
already.
All right. So basically, we're drilling holes in them. They're going on strings. They'll be hung under the docks. And you're correct. They also bring fish in. They'll bring in fish as well as oysters.
Okay, let me, it's too bad those oysters aren't for a greater purpose, but that's okay. They're goners and we didn't do it to them, so that's good. Bob has some comments that he wants to share, and we have some folks here. I can't get them.
You have to come.
Hi, I talked to Tim Hensey, who's the head of, say, Siesta Key, the Incorporation effort. He had a business meeting tonight So I invited him to come, but he couldn't make it. But he did send us a copy of his news release. And if you haven't seen it, there's several copies of it here. You can pick one up. What he asked me to share was that they had a good effort this year. There were 3 committees in the House that it had to pass. It didn't pass. It passed 1, but not the other 2. So it didn't make it out of the House. It didn't make it to the Senate. And so they're going to debrief with them this summer. But they didn't get a no. What they got was they ran out of time. Ran out of time.
They wasted a lot of time.
Well, they spent a lot of time on other things. You're right. Yeah, for your information, there were 1,800 bills filed and 19 were approved, 1%. So, you know, it's they're gonna go back and try again. And that's all Tim asked me to pass along to you. Mike, yes.
The shining light that everybody should see too is the single member districts. Siesta voted in their commission, so it's a great time to work with the new commission board and support them at this time. Nothing else we can do, let's support our commission.
If they supported us.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think that our state representative, she did a good job despite being 9 months pregnant and getting it mostly through the House. And I know Joe Gruters, the state senator, was a sponsor of it. And rep from Charlotte, who's the head of the House, was a very strong supporter of it. So I think there's good support. It just didn't make it this time, but the vote wasn't going to be until a year and a half from now. So there's time next spring at the same time to make it through the House and still have time for it to be on the ballot.
In November, have to start over again with the first committee, or do they just go to the last 2?
Oh, they have to do the whole thing over again.
They have to update the information that they use to, like, that update.
And
I don't
resubmit.
know what you call the details of it, but you should read, I would suggest you just read the press release, that will give you that information very clearly. And basically, they just have to update some of their statistics, some of their facts that they have. But they've already passed the first committee, and probably it wouldn't be very hard. It's just the next 2 they never made it to, so they didn't get a no. They didn't get the chance to get to their place because of 1,800 bills.
It doesn't pass, therefore it is a no. Next year, we will have to do the same 3 committees all over again.
But the good news is the committee they did pass was unanimous.
That's right. It was a good unanimous vote. So I think instead of being discouraged, for those of you that have worked so hard, and I see some of you with your t-shirts today, and I know when I heard it, I felt very concerned for all the people, because I don't think I've ever seen, aside from some of the projects we've had in years past, that kind of effort and that kind of care and perseverance. And I knew that it was going to be very hard to hear, but it's not done. And that's what I will always tell you, it's not done. It just feels such a big letdown, but it couldn't get there. It wasn't for lack of quality or for lack of welcome. I think 1,800 bills and all the other stuff that goes on up there, I can't even begin to tell you, but they're going to work with their lobbyists, find out what more they need to do to get it back on the floor again. So we wanted to make sure to tell you, please pick up one of the press releases so you have directly from them what they wanted to tell you about it. Now, the next thing I want to make sure is you all have known for some years, and some of you, I thought you're behind a big bulk here. I'm going to stand way back here. The smoking ordinance, I want to tell you that we feel very grateful that our commission has taken up now, given direction to our county staff to craft the ordinance. And I don't know how you all feel about it, but I have a feeling that many people who understand what it's been like to go out and try to clean the beach periodically, I mean, as an organized effort, it's disgusting to pick up the number of cigarette butts and debris, package wrappings, cigarette wrappings, papers. It is very hard, especially when you see that it gets caught in all of our grasses, it sticks there. There's almost no way to get rid of it. And I think that Dr. Leatherman, Dr. Beach, who has remained very close to all of our efforts here, has worked on this with the legislature, and he has every good environmental detail about it to tell you why it's very important. We would never have had the kind of awareness of our beaches without him, and it's all around the world now. And we want to keep up with everybody else. Hawaii has absolutely no smoking beaches, none. There's no reason why we can't take care of people being in the water here. We don't let dogs in the water, right? They're not supposed to. We know we have to have healthy beaches, and we have to do the part we can. So you'll hear more about that as they craft the language. And no one, by the way, is trying to say we don't want, I would like you not to smoke, but I know that people enjoy certain kinds of smoking, but they don't have to make a very impassable situation for you. I know I have to run away. You all remember riding on buses and going places to eat where you came away with hair. You had to jump in the shower when you got home. It smelled so bad. But we don't have those days anymore, and that's a good thing. You can't smoke in your hospital. Everybody's got the right ethic about it. So why not where we like to spend time with our children and with our family, and breathe in the good air. That's all I'm saying about that. I guess you tell my orientation. But we're not telling you you can't buy tobacco. That was how we got it through the legislature. Tobacco industry is very powerful. That was why we could never get it on the table up there, because the tobacco industry is very influential in the state of Florida. A lot of money comes in from taxes, just like it does gasoline. It comes in from tobacco and alcohol. So we had to make sure that this was crafted in a way that it was environmental, and it got passed. So help us keep posted with what's going to happen next, and we'll take a look at the ordinance. The next thing I want to make sure to do is, of course, you all know that we've had one great success in the courts right now with regard to the hotel challenges. And Bob's on the coalition board, as I am as well. Would you like to speak to anything that's coming? Just tell some dates that are coming ahead. We have a couple of cases that are coming up in the fall.
Lourdes Ramirez had a case in front of what's called DOA, Department of Administrative Hearings. And she won the case, and it was a well-written opinion, very well written, that said what the county did was illegal in not changing the comprehensive plan. That sounds familiar. That's been our call for 3 years. And so congratulations to Lourdes. But I remind you, if you look on the SKA website, there is a page that lists how to donate to Lourdes's legal fund at her lawyers, and also to the other one that's fighting the SKA hotel. So there are ways to donate and support their efforts. That case has now got two things to do. One is the governor and his cabinet don't have to approve it. It's a done deal. But they have until the 23rd of May to decide whether to sanction the county for doing that. I don't think they will, but that's a thing. And then the other thing it can be is to be appealed to the Tallahassee or another court of appeals. And the county has reserved its right to do that, and I don't know what the interveners, the hotels, will do. On the two lawsuits, one by Lourdes and one by against Ascari, both of those have been combined in front of the single judge, even though they're separate lawsuits. And Lourdes has filed for a summary judgment, which is just, it's a matter of law. Seems like it ought to be informed by this DOA decision. And she has notified the judge of that, as well as the Ascari hotel lawsuit. And he can make his mind up at any time. anytime. It's just, I'll read this stuff and I'll read the law and he can make his mind up. The only change is that the existing Judge Walker that we've had for 2 or 3 years decided he had a conflict of interest and pulled himself off the case. And so a judge who lives in Venice is now the judge who will hear this. And who knows what schedule he's on. I'm sure he has some reading to do. Nonetheless, both of those cases are scheduled for a single hearing in November of this year. So I don't know what'll happen. So there's a lot of paths this can take yet. That kind of can say, you know, we were wrong, and we're just gonna go try to change the comprehensive plan. The problem with that is it takes 4 commissioners out of 5 to change it. There's only 4 right now. And the 2 commissioners that represent Siesta Key have both pledged during the election, they will vote against that. So there's not a clear path for them to do that. A lot depends on who replaces Nancy Deaver. And that's an appointment by the governor or Mike Golders. So,
Now read what his race is in.
yeah, so I don't know where that'll go. There's a lot of paths, but we'll see what happens. And I don't know that I can answer any questions. It's just I'm muddling along. And thanks to Laura, the work she did. She had real good advice from an attorney by the name of Ralph Brooks. And Ralph is the one that suggested that it go to path, and that was a very good idea. I might add that that was the same lawyer that the coalition used initially.
That's one of the things that I'm very proud of, that over the last 2 years, when we started the coalition, we engaged people that were very good. And we started with Ralph Brooks and a few other people, and about 3 people down, one was suggested for Lourdes, and that turned out to be someone who did take that good case that could be done to the DOA, which is the state of hearing for the state of Florida. And the other good thing about it is when you take a case there, even if you were lose, you didn't get any punishment of having to pay the other people, taking a case in that direction. It's a good way to go to lower some of the costs for everybody. And now the county, as far as we know, has not decided to appeal it. They decided just to hold the opportunity to appeal it at some time in the future. But they, as far as we know, are not appealing that case. So that's all we know. And I hope that you all have learned a lot and that you, what? Oh, yeah. Well, an old subject. I don't have that on this sheet of paper. I didn't, that I handed out, but just in the last, really
May
10 to
1st.
12 days, the Siesta Promenade, remember the whole case, there with, Benderson, right on Stickney Point, which we started with the same kind of thing, the same kind of process, fighting that whole development. It's now been reopened. And Benderson wants to change their zoning to full commercial. That's basically what they're attempting to do. And we were on the call this week with that workshop, even though we're not part of that quote neighborhood, we are an impacted group. They don't want to believe it, but we are.
So was Neil.
And Neil was on that call too. And I think that and so was Tim Hensey, by the way, who heads up the coalition. So we've been talking with Sura Kochman, who lives in that neighborhood for a little while. We think we understand what's happening, but I want you all to know that even though it's not specific just to Siesta Key, we have always said that we feel impacted because that road is the only way on and off the key, on that end of the key. And most of the merchants that live there, including the hotel, the Best Western that's down there, they were all supporters of us as well. They did not want that. They did not want the light. They did not want the hotel. They didn't mind some development, but what has happened now is they want it all. And we know exactly what we need to do, and we're just going to stick with them and keep in touch with them. and see if we can convince the commissioners that it is a very bad idea, what they seem to be proposing. So that's where we are. I just wanted to tell you that we're involved, and if you have questions.
Next comes the planning commission.
Yes, they are gonna go to the planning commission next. They'll have to go to the planning commission and start over after all this. So they have to go to the planning commission. Yes, Neil, you wanna?
We should mention that every resident who spoke opposed the change in their plans. And Bob said at the end, that every resident opposed who spoke, because they claim they're making the changes to help the community, to buffer the community. And the point was that Bob made was, if every resident who spoke is against it, don't you think you should withdraw?
Right, it was, they have a very nice plan. They want to offer parallel parking on Glencoe. Or thinking, really? Well, they said, yes, it's an amenity. It'll serve as a great buffer to the neighborhood if we have parallel parking, and then you won't be so bothered by the commercial on the other side of the people that are parked. And it, you know, we think it's what's the other thing? It's kind of a bait and switch, you know. You know that those kind of roads can't have parallel parking. We know, if you know anything about the traffic and the roadways and what's allowed, it can't. It can only have that if they become commercial. So to say to people, here, we're gonna help you with your buffer by adding parallel parking to the neighborhood, we know exactly where it's going. So just know, we listened, the comments were clear. It's not seen as helpful by anybody in that neighborhood. And as Neil was saying, they said, well, we thought it would be an amenity, and I'm very glad we picked up and said, hey, if people don't want it, why do you keep offering it? So anyway, I don't think they left with a favorable response, to say the least. So, yes.
They realized that how that light is not working, and it's actually not open, because I went just a few weeks ago, there was somebody back up across 41 trying to get on the key. I just barely made it in, and still was, I had to go through several left turning lights.
Well, I haven't seen that.
There's a light just about a block further down, and what?
Well, the story on the light is very interesting. There's lots more to that, but the only thing I would tell you is the reason it was put there was because they were told that the state of Florida would not change the light signaling along US 41, which, as you know, goes several hundred miles across Florida. And they say that's got to stay intact. So Benderson couldn't rely on getting in and out off of 41. And so the mediation point was, well, if you just give us the light, we'll have a place to go in and out of, and we'll keep the neighborhood whole. We won't be entering and exiting through the neighborhood. The light's not been activated, and in fact, the light is not, and this is a fact, it is not the correct distance between two major intersections that it's required to be. The state waived it only because they would not budge on the US 41. The light thing. A lot of people don't know that. So that's part of the reasoning. So many moving parts, but my head hurts. But anyway, that's what happened. And now they're starting again. So just we'll keep you posted as we learn things. And please look on the Siesta Promenade Facebook page. I know Sarah will be keeping that up to date. I'm guessing she's a feisty woman, and I'm very supportive of her. I hope she gets some success. All right, and if no one has more comments, we're going to let you go home to supper before the church bells ring. I will call it adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.